I happen to think there's a gay mafia in hip hop.
Right.
You think we'll ever have a gay rap artist?
Maybe
Openly
one
gay?
day. That would be, but that's like, why does that matter?
I know.
Like, if he want to dudes or whatever, why does that matter? Like, why do we care?
Yerk, I know what you're thinking. Your boy pretty than a mug, ain't he? Go and get you a good look, because I am not doing this twice. Makeup's a pain in the behind, and I very obviously don't know what I'm doing. Now, if you're wondering why I'm wearing a full face of makeup, well, I felt like it. But more importantly, I want to make a point. Fellas, it's just face paint. A little enhancement like some of y'all touching up those beards and hairlines, but the difference is hairline paint is deemed acceptable and makeup isn't. Now, what's the big difference? Well, one is associated with women, and ingrained misogyny allows men to view things stereotypically designed for women as lesser value than things designed for men, but I'll be getting into that. What I really want to get into is a discourse on queer identities in hip hop, specifically the places queer folks are allowed to enter as entertainers. Will there ever be an openly gay rapper that maintains that gritty exterior? A rapper that still has broad appeal and will get features from other big name artists? I mean, Lil Nas X got features from Nas and Youngboy Never Broke Again, which is definitely a move in the right direction, but those cases feel more like the exceptions to the rule. Plus, Nas X is pretty femme. I want to focus on more traditionally masculine examples of queerness. I'll be using Tyler the Creator along with a few others, but this video isn't about these artists individually. I'm just using them as conceptual examples. I don't know these people and I don't really care. Fuck them. Millionaires aren't your friends. But they are important to the discussion I want to have today as they represent eras in, let's call it, our collective enlightenment. As with any other video, you'll be blocked for leaving any homophobic comments, but feel free to engage as you wish. Just keep it civil. Now, I'll be using gay and queer interchangeably, not because I don't understand the difference, but because I have a slight speech impediment, and if I have to say LGBTQIA a dozen times, I'm going to pull out my own hair. Now, to touch on this properly, I'll need to focus on black masculinity, as hip-hop at its inception was a black art, and most of its identifiers attributed to hip-hop, style, speech pattern, and so on have their basis in black culture. Black masculinity is different from what you may come across in white communities. This includes acceptance of homosexuality, which is still taboo. And before you get into all of "we are not a monolith" in the comments, I know there isn't a uniform black experience, but there is a general one, and that's the context I'll be speaking in today. Now, as a little kid, one of my favorite celebrities was Little Richard, who deviated so far from the standards of masculinity I was conditioned to believe in, so far from what I thought was accessible. A new world to explore, colors, eyeliner, glitter. Then I found out what homophobia is. One day when I was about 6, I was playing dress up with my cousins, just goofing off. We paraded around the living room like we're in a fashion show, and our parents would play along, laughing at us wobbling around in jackets and pants so big we could wear them as blankets. And it was all fun and games until I put on one of my grandmother's old pantsuits and a pair of her heels. All of a sudden, none of the adults were smiling. That shock turned into sour glares as I was ordered through grit teeth to put everything back. This is also one of the first times I was called the F slur. The next day, there was more focus on me doing boy activities. They meant well, but like other older black men of the era, hold on to this idea of homosexuality being foreign to black men, meaning it was from foreign influences that homosexuality in black communities emerged. Google buck breaking. I don't have time for that right now. If you were to ask certain rappers, they'll spout these wild conspiracy theories about gay hip-hop Illuminati because they honestly view anything verging on queer as unnatural or worse, believe in this idea of gay humiliation rituals, which is honestly so stupid I thought I wouldn't have to get into it, but some of y'all in the comments prove that y'all ain't got no sense. Now stop drinking a Diddy Kool-Aid and think logically. What's more likely? A grand gay conspiracy in an industry that can't keep a mixtape a secret? Or a few download gay people and their management in hip-hop that support each other? Now I'll be going into more detail about this phenomenon of secret society allegations and theories in part 2. I'll have a whole section dedicated to it. But I bring it up right now for 2 reasons. 1, I don't want any illusions that I buy into this nonsense. And 2, it's usually brought up by the ones that fit the bill for stereotypical self-hating gays like Bussy, who, you know what, I have a bone to pick with Bottom Bussy.
You got cartoons they have gays on cartoons. Like, these are kids. Let kids make their own decision. If
This clown gets brought up all the time for his tweets and IG posts or whatever else he posts on, but How many people can name a Bussy track? I'll wait. Exactly, that's my point. The bars weren't getting him anywhere, so he sensationalizes his limited, whiny, delusional ideas about queer people just to stay relevant. But he has no problem getting grown women to perform certain acts on his son and nephew.
I'm training them boys right. Ask any of my nephew. Ask any of them. Ask my son. Yeah. They were 12, 13. They got head. Yeah. That's how it's supposed to be. Yes, a grown woman. Grown, super grown.
The idea of having a queer kid is so terrifying that some people will readily expose their own children to stuff they are nowhere near old enough for. But I bring that up as a little context for how a lot of little black boys are raised. We all go through the heteronormative programming as kids, but I don't think there's the same disdain spent on queer and feminine men like it is within black communities and by extension hip hop. Quick and easy example. Lil Nas X, acceptable as a gay rapper? No. Gay pop star? Yeah. But ask one of your straight friends the last time they listened to a song of his. They'll probably look at you like you're crazy for implying that they would. And I don't know why. Some of that kind of hit. But you also have cats like Young Thug that'll throw on a string of pearls and rock a dress when he's not rocking county colors, but it ain't really that deep. And when it comes to examples like Young Thug or a more contemporary example, Tizo Touchdown, my brain melts a little bit. I mean, I really can't understand the difference between Tizo's aesthetic becoming more or less acceptable, but Nas X being treated like a pariah by some black men. 15 years ago, the old heads would call them both gay. Hell, 20 years ago, they might have got a dipped on for coming out the house like that. Y'all remember the baggy tee era? We could never get away with coming around dressing like this. And now you got dudes that walk around with purses.
This ain't a purse, it's a satchel.
But they draw the line at vibing to a rapper that likes men. I don't mean in private, I mean in a club, on TikTok, at a DJ house set. Somewhere other cishet men will see cishet men. As men, we really need to grow enough to not squirm at the idea of queerness in general. Is it really that bad to hear a song that contains lyrics about a conquest or an ex-lover if they might be the same gender? The problem a lot of straight men have is they think gay men would treat them the way that straight men treat women, and that may be the difference maker in acceptance of queer women in hip hop and not men. Queer women aren't viewed as a threat to a man's masculinity, which is opposing to the anthropological nature of the situation. Let me elaborate. Within social dynamics, men are in competition with straight men for the attention of women. Gay men aren't in contest with straight men in that way. However, gay women are, and by the logic behind a lot of straight men's actions, they shouldn't be worrying about gay men. But again, a lot of straight men fear that queer men will treat them the way they treat women they pursue intimately. But that only accounts for social dynamics in terms of interpersonal interactions. What about music? While there will always be detractors that complain about queer identities, there's far more leniency with women, because women, even gay or otherwise queer identifying, don't represent a challenge to masculinity. But gay men disrupt social norms in a way that shifts gender norms of the patriarchy, which only maintains its strength by limiting how men express themselves. But gay rappers rap just like straight rappers, and if straight men can handle Megan Thee Stallion bumping in the club or Young and May, what's the real difference in disregarding lyrics that don't pertain to you? Non-heteros have to read between the lines and interpret straight lyrics for queer lifestyles, but the straights can't handle it. Then again, this is a man issue, and some men are so worried about perceived marks against their masculinity, they won't even use a pink lighter.
I want a lighter, bro. I want what I'm gonna do with a pink lighter, bro? Like, be for real, bro.
Come on, bro.
Do I look like one of them to you, bro?
Bro, it works.
Man, give me a lighter, bro. All right? Give my money back or give me a lighter, bro.
Bro.
Some can't even accept Tizo Touchdown like this TikTok commenter, and I hate to reinforce the stereotype, but the ones that usually go out of their way to police someone's orientation or gender identities usually fear their own. The type of dudes that felt conflicted once in middle school and spent the rest of their adult life trolling. I really wonder if we'll ever get those stories about gay rappers having secret rendezvous or living in lavender marriages. A lavender marriage essentially being a cover for queer celebrities, they would maintain the illusion of being in hetero relationships, but they would slide off with their real boo thing when the lights were off. Now, I've mentioned previously that it's statistically improbable for there not to be an upper tier rapper that's gay or otherwise queer identifying. We have Tyler the Creator, who I'll be getting into in a second, but I'm referring specifically to those who maintain that gritty, overly masculine image, like your Yo Gotti's, Future, 2 Chainz, the cats from Griselda. There's this stigma that you can't be tough and be queer. Like, you can't like dudes and stand on business, but let me tell you, that's not really the case. There are a lot of thugs on Grinder. Dudes that keep that thing on them, hug the blocks, and make the moves that a lot of rappers pretend to do. But for the hood dude, it's too easy to get robbed, jumped, or shunned. Women may not want to date you, nasty rumors could come out, and sadly, men who see other men are often perceived as soft targets. A soft target is a person that's perceived as someone who will not put up much of a fight, or if they do, it will be fairly easy to take them down. It's coward behavior to challenge someone you believe you have a clear advantage over. It's why there's no Ted Bundy for cage fighters, and there's no Night Stalkers out there hunting bodybuilders. But these hood dudes would never tell you or show it for the fears of someone thinking they're soft. The funny thing is, soft is completely arbitrary and fluctuates with time. The hip hop purists and old heads will complain about this picture, but act like they weren't dressed like this, or this. And that's Iron Mike Tyson, one of the toughest men to ever step in the ring wearing little booty shorts. But there aren't many men that will say something about it to his face then or now. With hip hop aesthetic, unlike other genres, there's a drastic shift in style within few years. The evolution of the aesthetic within rock music, for example, moves at a slower pace, even though the sound, like all music, is constantly evolving. Getting back to the old heads for a second, with the transition away from disco into the mid 80s, trickle down economics, the war on drugs, and policies that locked up a disproportionate number of black folks, rap music was reflective of that life as it is now. And it became harder, the more aspirational civil rights messages turning more militant in response to the lack of effort or care shown by good old Uncle Sam. The cycle continued through the gangster rap to softcore renaissance rap of the early 2000s. The rise of figures like Eminem, Kanye, Lupe, Fiasco, Lil Wayne was making another run for king of hip hop, and all these commingled styles led to the creation of the Creator. Now, most of us are old enough to remember OG Tyler, the Tyler that got banned from playing in certain countries because of his violent homophobic lyrics. And it was cringe. I mean, cringe, cringe. Like, it was so bad that Sid of the internet and former collaborator of Tyler had to distance themselves from Odd Future. Thankfully, over the years, there's been this gradual evolution of Tyler as we know him now. The toxic masculinity of his old music is almost reflective of the inner turmoil he must have felt being a queer black man. The fear of getting pigeonholed was a real thing, and even 15 years after 2010, the world really isn't that accepting, especially hip hop. But I'll point out that as his style changed and he loosened up, he became less attached to what we would view as standard for rappers. Sonically, his style changed and his attire started to match a sunnier outlook on life. Man's dropped some acid and topped a twink, and boom, a new man. Regardless of how far from the church they are, a lot of black men deal with heterosexism, which is a term used to parallel racism and sexism, whereby ideological belief stigmatizes non-normative forms of sexual behavior. This has been a major issue in the black church. Similarly to racism, heterosexism permeates religious traditions and customs, and a dual process of silence and verbal attacks on men who have sex with men, becoming militant to keep their same-sex behavior concealed. But what do you think? Is hip-hop mainstream hip-hop for the straights? The truth is, there are a lot of gay men in hip-hop living double lives. It's statistically improbable for there not to be at least half a dozen popular butch rappers that are gay or queer aligning. I'm not naming any names because I'm not getting sued for a YouTube video, and more importantly, outing people is just hella tacky. But there have been stories, carefully redacted of course, to allude to men living gay lives, and I'll be getting into that next week.